Welcome to today's edition of You and the Law. Today, we'll be looking at marriages under the Nigerian legal system. What are the types of marriages that we have? There are basically three types of marriages, and I will classify them as such. We have marriage under the Act, otherwise known as statutory marriage. We have marriage under native law and custom, otherwise known as traditional or customary marriage. We also have marriage under Islamic law. Now, before we even go further, I would like to make these clarifications. Many people have often confused what marriage under the Act means. By the Act here, I mean under the Marriage Act and under the Matrimonial Causes Act. When marriage is celebrated either in a church, which we lawyers or under the law is known as marriage in a licensed place of worship, or is celebrated at the registry, which some people confuse or erroneously refer to as court marriage, the only significance is the place of celebration. It's not the name that we choose to give to it. Now, such marriages are said to be marriages under the Act, which is the English law marriage recognized under the Marriage Act and under the Matrimonial Causes Act. We also have marriage under native law and custom, which is the traditional marriage and the customary marriage, as I earlier said. Who is eligible to get married? There are various requirements. The first point is to note that under the Marriage Act and the Matrimonial Causes Act, for a person to be eligible to marry or to get involved in the union of husband and wife, that person must not be less than 21 years. When the person is less than 21 years, the consent of the parents or the guardian, that is the person in local parentage, is the person who is in the place of a parent, has to be sought and obtained. The person must also be of mental capacity, must have the mental capacity to get married, meaning that at the time of the celebration of the marriage, none of the parties to the marriage must have a mental defect, either due to insanity or other occurrences that deprive that person of the capacity to understand the nature of what the person is getting into. Again, we must also note that consent must not be obtained by fraud. Both parties to the marriage must give their consent before that marriage can legally take place. That marriage must also comply with the law of the place of celebration in terms of the formal requirements for celebration of marriage. For example, where a church is licensed to celebrate marriage, the parties to the marriage must give consent give notice before that marriage can take place. And even when that marriage is to take place at the registry, there has to be publication, there has to be a notice given to the public, just in case anyone has objection to that marriage. Again, we must also note that the intending parties to the marriage must not be within what we call the prohibited degrees of consanguinity and affinity. I will explain that. It means that neither the man nor the woman should be related by blood, which is consanguinity ties, or affinity ties, that is relation by marriage. The person must not be the in-law of the other person or other relationship arising from marriage. These decrees are highly prohibited. That means a brother cannot get married to a sister, a nephew cannot get married to a niece, and so on and so forth. These are things that the law has expressly prohibited. Furthermore, at the time of the celebration of the marriage, both parties have to be single. In other words, a person who is already married, and I am saying this under marriage under the Act, a person who is already married cannot legally get involved in another type of marriage. This is, however, different in marriage under Islamic law or marriage under native law and custom. Both parties have to be single. Where other parties are married, that marriage is void. Where there is already an existing marriage, none of the parties can contract a statutory marriage. That will amount to a void marriage under Section 3 of the Matrimonial Causes Act.